Okay, let's go through a number of signals throughout a day, and we're going to walk back through them and just talk about, how do these different playbook trades go into play, and how can we leverage that as we're looking to express intraday. So let's start here with the screens. We're looking at the NASDAQ. So what we're going to do first is we're going to filter this by the NQ, and we find that there were 4 signals today. So I want to walk through each one of these, and we're going to talk about, okay, what is the presenting condition? What are we looking for here? How could we have executed on that? And then also, like, how would we have not executed on it? Because just because we see a signal, it doesn't mean that we're going to, actually take a trade. So, some conditions are there, but now the question is, like, how do I make this, work for me? So let's start with the first one. All right, the first one came in this morning, was a prior value test. So prior value test is the expectation that we have an auction that is inside of the prior range. So if here's the prior range, right, and here's the prior point of control, and the idea is that we're going to go and we're going to trade up to that point of control. So that target is 142. This signaled right after the open. So let's actually walk through this and see if there's an opportunity here for us to do this. And we're looking at a 1 minute time frame, so we know we're looking for 142. So let's see if we can find right off of the open here an opportunity. Okay. Immediate open and seeing a spike in volume. So how would we do this? So we could buy the position. Where would we be wrong, especially if you're going to go right off here? This was an open drive, so we opened and did not go past that. So I would not want to go back through that open. And we're looking for 142. Okay, so that's where it's going back. This is the prior value test. So let's play this out here. Let's just kind of go as it rock and rolls. Now, a prior value test is a trade that should happen very quickly in the session. So it's going to happen during the initial balance or during a period. What's the premise for this trade? How does this come to be? Is that if we're inside the prior range, if there's a prominent point of control, as long as we stay inside the prior range, the probability that we will tag the point of control to the tick is about 65%. So it's a better than 50-50 coin flip. And if you find something like a driving open right off the open, that's a way that you can leverage that. Now, at this point, the target is achieved. That trade is done. Okay, so that's the prior value test. Now let's go look at this open drive go with. So we're going to go a little bit further in time here, basically to where we are right now. So what does an open drive go with? An open drive go with is where we have seen a directional open, and it's an open drive. An open drive is one of a number of open types where you open and then just drive. We don't go pass through go, like we just rock and roll. It's a sign of strong directional conviction. All right, so that's the presenting condition. How do we leverage that? What are we looking for? So the expectation is if this directional open holds, we should see certain things. Like one, we should see the average trading range of the initial balance achieved, or we should see the initial balance extended in the direction of that. So let's add a couple other pieces here. So one, we're going to look at adding in this table. So if you notice up here, I've copied this from the quick sheet, but it shows, how much of the range of the initial balance have we done so far? So we've done 159 points. What's the ATR of that? It's been 300 points. So, we still have quite a bit of that range left to get to the average of the initial balance. And we auto calculate that for 286. That's we're looking to get up to here as 25, 286. So somewhere about up here would get us in that ballpark. So as long as, let's just look at this signal. Got a pretty good score. We'd be wrong if we go through halfway back of a period or below the VWAP. So let's add a couple other pieces in here. So we're going to look at some dynamic references so we can see where that VWAP is. And this one. All right, so here's the session VWAP. So there, and if we measure halfway back of this move, like we should not be able to go back through here. So if I was going to enter for that position, so this would be the entry here. Where would be the loss is if I went back, wrong tool here. So stop loss would be if I go through that and halfway back, and I'm looking for 25,286. Okay, so this is an open drive go with. Different playbook trade. So the prior value test is done, but we're presenting as an open drive, and as long as we hold these prices, that's the key piece, we look for them to go higher. So let's walk through this and see how this progresses. Now, a couple things on this. Notice now we're north of 1 standard deviation of the VWAP. We're starting to get some slant there. We have not taken out the overnight high or the overnight low, so the overnight stat is still in play. But we're after a period. So this is all the first period of the day. So let's turn on the profile so you can see that. So that's all the first period of the day. So now I'm going to be more protective, and I'm going to come up here and defend. Especially, you can see this last little spot right there where they popped that. So we're going to come back here and get behind this strength. So you can see this volume that went here. We're going to stay behind that strength. Why? Because the idea is, like, if I see strength at the extreme of the profile, I want to defend that. If we go back through that, then we could easily rotate back down. We could easily rotate, back in here before pushing. So there's no reason to give that back. All right. So let's get rid of all of that. And let's see how this progresses. We don't need this little deal. Okay. And we're out. All right. So that is the second position. Right, so that's the open drive go with. Now let's fast forward to 10:30. Okay, so now we're going to go forward in time, because what we find, and I'm using mountain time. Okay, so here's 10:30. We've extended IB low, so we did not take out IB high. We did not get the overnight high. We went actually and took out overnight low. Okay, so now we have another playbook idea, and that's an IB go with. Let's look at this. What's an IB go with? Is that we've extended the initial balance, and we're looking to go with the extension of that initial balance. However, look at the playbook score here. So we do have a narrow IB, but we don't have 50% of the expected range left. So at this point, we've done 300 points. We're expecting 389 points. So we don't have a whole lot of stuff out in front of us. So this is one of those where if we get further extension outside of the IB, maybe I would go with it. But typically on the first breach of the IB, I'd look for it to kind of come back in this direction. This is executed, however, on the breach of the initial balance. So, if you were going to go on the strength, you would put your stop right here. But given the fact that we have used a lot of that range, I'm going to look for, some kind of second pass before we push out. So let's do this. Let's push back here, and let's see if they give us an opportunity. We've identified that. Okay, so they're pulling back, kind of back to the middle of the range. And then we see this turn over here. Now I want to add a couple other pieces here. So one of them is gamma exposure. So these are GEX levels from today. And there was a cluster of GEX that was right all in this neighborhood. And I could, if I wanted to, enter here as part of an IB trade. However, this is not executing on the extreme. This is executing in it. In that case, it would be an IB go with on a pullback, which in that scenario, I'm looking more to enter up here for rotation lower. Knowing that I've extended the IB here is less likely I'll extend here. So I'm really at this point looking to see, can I go up here? But if we accelerate and break down through here, we can rock and roll, right? So let's see what happens. Okay, twice we've gone up to this GEX price, and this is where you could actually use some of this gamma exposure to enter. Now, this is not technically an IB go with. This is an IB go with on a pullback. The stop would be here. I would still be looking for out here towards 1.5 the IB. Let's just see how that goes. So this would be, I would actually, because this wasn't signaled, I would actually go in here and create a signal for that. So I would go NQ, and I would do IBGP, open, live, short. My target is 24,878. Stop is 25,100. I'm in at 25,048 at 11:07 a.m. All right, so I can now track that. That's down here. And let's see how this progresses. So we get back to the IB low again. I'm going to pull this down and defend, because the more times we get outside the IB, we should not go back inside the IB. So this may be the one that goes. Or if you were not in, this could be a spot that you would enter, but the defense would be the same place. So once we're back outside the IB, I don't want back inside. And I got stopped. All right. So let's continue, shall we? Now, at this point, IB go with is still on the realm of possibility. What we will watch at this point is, do we get additional movement here at the IB low, where we see some conviction to push out and stay outside of it. Now, notice we do have some trailing binary VWAPs here that can get in the way. And there's definitely, if we go back here, it's back to where this buyer was from yesterday. So that's still in place. There's definitely a zone here. All right, so here is another opportunity that you could do. What would be the stop loss, right? I would not want to go back above here. Looking to see if additional steps down here, it breaches. Nope. All right. So again, that's what I'm saying. Like on IB go with, we have to be really, really tight. Again, nothing to do. I could look for an IB go with on a pullback, as if I get again up here. Okay, that right there, back above VWAP. So notice the spike above VWAP, back into that GEX, fails back through. Now, I could do a go with short here, again, targeting the same prices. Instead, given where we are in time, because we're now over lunch, this breach right here with acceleration is kind of the last stab, right? So this is the last stab on the go with. Defending, same target. Okay, rock and roll. Then that leads us to the last one here. It's the trend continuation. Okay, so that achieved the target of the IB go with, down to 873. Now we're looking at trend continuation. So let's move forward here. This comes in up at 1. All right. So at this point, we have a pretty well-defined trend day lower. You can see the slope of VWAP here. We're out past 1 to 2 standard deviations. Okay, so that's what I would call it. Kind of this is the trending channel right here, and we're out past 2 standard deviations. So got pretty impulsive, pretty fast. So how does a trend continuation work? So the idea is that we're going to see the low near the end of the day, or in the end of the day. We're below monthly VWAP, so I mean could be significantly lower, but we got a problem, right? What the problem is look at the volume profile here. So we currently have a node that's developing here, but price is right here. So on a trend continuation, what I want to look for, as long as I don't go back inside the initial balance, which is up here, I'm looking for rotations up here that get me above a developing node and give me good location for that push lower. All right, so let's see if we're offered an opportunity to do that for the trend continuation. But definitely not down here on the lows. Way too easy for the market to push up. Okay, so like this is actually a pretty decent spot. if I was going to be in here, I would want to make sure that my stop is above here. So this is a trend continuation. Now, we could still go higher. So in this case, I'm actually going to do a smaller size. All right, stop loss is going to be if we get above here, and then take profit is going to be new lows to push down here. And I'm really watching how we are around the month-to-date VWAP. Okay, so we push down. Again, noticing this node here. So if we're down below that, we've made these new lows, we could easily rotate back up because we have to build here to pull value lower. And that right there, that should have stopped it out. Yeah, so right there. And that is the trend continuation. I could look for potential additional opportunities. We can go forward here and see if they're, if they did more work to kind of build value lower. They're definitely working around this node. So the idea is like if I'm above it, okay, I don't want to be down below it because I still have to come back here to pull value lower for the day. So let's just kind of see how the rest of the day played out. So definitely bouncing in this range. All right, so you can see as we pushed above that, there were additional opportunities for that trend continuation short. And you're offsetting on the push lower. Responsive rallies above it. And then as we get close to the end of the day, the last hour, it can really kind of resettle. So then I would say avoid at that point. We found some buyers above the monthly VWAP and we're off to the races. So there we go. That is a walkthrough of, really 4 signals, 1 manual signal all around one product. And, each of these signals are giving you a clue to here's the key driving input. This is the key condition that we're looking for. Now I got to find a spot where I want to manage risk and find participants who want to go in the direction that I want to go so that I can mitigate that and leverage that, knowing where I'm wrong, knowing what shouldn't happen, because sometimes things happen that is not what we expect because we're still trying to do this stuff all on the hard right edge, right? So you can always look at the signals that we generate for the day on our free plan. So if you don't have a starter plan with Signal P, go and do that. And then if you want to start practicing with these and going back historically, get the starter plan and you can see not just the course and the education for, where do these ideas and these signal ideas come from, but you can also actually use these to help build your playbook. So use our playbook and start with our playbook as you're looking to build your own. All right, peace.